Okay, so this is just initial thoughts. I've opened the watch, obviously tried it on in the shop. I've sized the watch and had to play around with it, so it's just my initial thoughts, and yeah, let's get to it. So inside here is my IWC Mark 18 Le Petit Prince, and I'll explain why I bought that in just a second. So what's quite cool about the IWC watch boxes is this. I don't think many people do this. I've seen a few. You get a nice little leather watch case inside, as opposed to just a useless watch box, and it unpops on both sides, and that's the watch. So we'll come to that in just a second. There you go, undoes on both sides. Nice thick leather, and it's real leather, obviously, not pleather, which is what you'd expect from a watch like this. Then inside the box, you just got your standard stuff: manuals, booklets, operating manuals, user guides, stuff like that. I did get, for some reason, 2 IWC branded cleaning towels or cloths. So you can see there, it's just got the branding on it, which is kind of cool, I guess. I don't think I'll ever use them. I'll just use a towel, but they feel nice. I'm not going to go through the manuals and stuff, because who cares about that? We're here for the watches, not the supporting documentation. Okay, let's move this to the side. So why the IWC? So there are a few watches that I looked at too, or 3 actually. The Grand Seiko Snowflake was one watch that I was seriously considering. I didn't go with that in the end, just because I think it was a bit too dressy. I still think Grand Seikos, for my taste, are still too much on the dressy side of things and not enough on the sporty side of things. And their sporty watches are just way too big for my personal tastes, which, as you know, if you've been watching my other videos, is why I sold the Tudor Black Bay GMT in the first place, because it was just too big for me. So Le Petit Prince, there's 2 different options for this. Well, actually, there's a number of different options for this watch, but on the bracelet, you've either got the black or the blue dial. The reason I chose the Le Petit Prince, which is the blue dial, is, as I'm sure most people know, I just like blue for a start. And Le Petit Prince with the blue dial comes with polished elements that the black one doesn't. So you'll see there the handset is polished. It has a polished bezel. It has polished center links. And the black variant, the bezel is brushed apart from the very tiny bit at the edge. It doesn't have polished center links. And the handset are brushed as well. So for me, having had a Pelagos and knowing that that's just not my cup of tea, I just don't like watches to be quite that utilitarian. I think this watch is far more versatile because of the polished elements that it has, compared to the black version, which is just all brushed. So that's why I chose this particular version. The Le Petit Prince history is quite interesting. If you're into watches, go to the IWC website and have a read, because it actually is quite interesting as to why it's called Le Petit Prince, which is the little prince, and the history behind that. What unfortunately you can't see, and I'll try and insert a picture, is the sunburst dial. A bit like my Tudor Blue, it's lovely and subdued in light like this. It's quite dark, and then as soon as you get to into the sunlight, it's absolutely stunning. The dial, the sunburst effect on the dial is cracking. Just give me a second. Let me see if I can move this light to achieve it. No, it's not going to work. It's the wrong kind of light. Okay, cool. I will try and get a picture in. But yeah, the sunburst effect is absolutely insane. One of the other things that drew me to this, I don't like leather straps, and you can either get this on the leather strap or the bracelet, and the bracelet is insane. So each one of these 5 links is an individual tiny little piece, and press the little piece there, a little circle, and it pops out. And every single link, as you can see, is removable on both sides. It's a really fantastic system. I've played around with it while sizing the dial, and I do like it a lot. What you will see on the bottom is that is Le Petit Prince. Is it gonna? It's trying to get the perlage there. Ooh, it's not gonna do it, is it? Oh, there you go. Just about. There you go. So really, really cool. We'll come back to the perlage there, which is completely unnecessary, but amazing in a minute. So when you put it on, I think a lot like the Rolex Jubilee bracelet, because it has so many links on it, it just fits so comfortably. I mean, my Black Bay 58 is comfortable, but this is just ridiculous. It's so light as well, and we'll come on to the dimensions in a second as well. But because of the 5 links, because of the maneuverability of the links, compared to being solid links, like a Tudor, like the Oyster style bracelets, it's super, super comfortable. So that's another one of the reasons I chose it. The bracelet is fantastic, and then the clasp. I may as well talk about the clasp now. So first of all, who puts perlage on a clasp? I mean, that is just awesome. You just don't see that type of detail on watches, especially not somewhere where you don't look, because obviously when it's closed, that's what you see. There's nothing there. So I absolutely love that detail. But the masterclass, the masterpiece of this watch is the micro adjusting system. So this bit here is a button, and you push it and the clasp comes out, and then you can push it back in either on your wrist or take it off. So you just push it back in like that and you can hear it, or you can just hold it down and slide it in and out. So, and if I turn it over, you'll see it. It's absolutely brilliant. And I mean, that's proper micro adjustment. Look at the size of those ratchets, the ratchet spaces, they're tiny. So you can get an absolutely, hang on, for me, there you go, 3 for me. An absolutely perfect fit. And then when you just get a little bit hot, like my Tudor Pelagos, like the new T-Fit clasp on the 58s, like the glide lock, you don't even have to take it off, you just press it and it just undoes, and then it's that little bit looser. Absolutely brilliant. So the bracelet and the clasp were a big factor in me buying this watch, and actually I saw this on one of my friends who's got a Le Petit Prince chronograph, and having played around with his, so they were big decision factors for me. One of the other items is just the design of it. It's such a crisp and simple design with a fantastic dial, just white and blue, that it's just going to be timeless. I just think it's going to age very, very well. And I really am trying to just find watches that give me a bit of variation in my collection, but also just will age well and look good for a very long time. And I really do think this will do that. Another thing which I do like about this, I didn't like about my Tudor, I do like about my Omega, is it's not a high polished case side. I do like brushing. The amount of micro scratches you pick up on the side of the case is just bonkers. And the brushing hides it unbelievably well. And when you've got brushing on the, polishing on the bracelet and the bezel, you just don't need it on the side. So I much prefer the brushing on the side of the case as opposed to a high polish. Dimensions, this is where again it really wins out. One dimension is a bit odd. So it's 11 millimeters thick, which is it's so comfortable. It's so comfortable. It's 20 millimeters between the lugs, and the bracelet does not taper. Because it's only 20 millimeters, I don't think it's going to be a problem for me, but I'll do an update on the watch once I've had it for a lot longer. and it's around 51mm lug to lug, which is quite unusual for what is a 40mm diameter watch. So again, luckily for me, I've got fairly oval shaped wrists, so my wrist can take it easily without any problem at all. Well, look at that, that's just, it's so slim. And because of the lugs, it actually hugs my wrist really well, and it stays nice and flat to my wrist when I'm wearing it. It's extraordinarily comfortable. It's elegant. It's an incredible piece of design. And the way the bracelet and clasp have been constructed are just mind-blowing. It absolutely puts, as far as I'm concerned, Omega and Rolex to shame. IWC, who knew? Absolutely belting. The only other watch I actually tried on was a Omega Seamaster Diver 300 white dial, completely different to this obviously, but I just wanted something different for my collection, and I just didn't like it. I hoped I would. I knew there were certain things I didn't like it. I know a lot of people don't like the helium escape valve. That's not a problem for me. I'm not a big fan of the skeletonized hands. I'm not a big fan of the bracelet design, and that's probably kind of it. So I'm still searching for my white dial watch. I don't know when or what that will be, but I do desperately want a white dial watch at some point. But yeah, when I put it on, it sat a lot taller. It's about 13.5mm thick, which is very similar to my Omega Seamaster Aquaterra, so I was surprised that it felt as thick as it did. It was probably because I was wearing my 58 and trying on this at the same time, but it did sit a lot taller off my wrist. And I think as well, because as you can see, that's very flat on the bottom, the Seamaster sticks out a bit, so it does just jut up that little bit off your wrist. The bezel action on it was extremely disappointing. I think my Tudor Black Bay 58 bezel action is far, far superior to the Omega Seamaster that I tried anyway. My friend's Rolex Submariner was even better, but yeah, the bezel action on the Omega was very disappointing for me. And it just didn't feel as nicely built and constructed and as elegant and as timeless as this. I can see in 10 years' time, I might look back at the Seamaster and not think it's that attractive, but I think this has a really timeless aesthetic to it. So that was a bit longer than I expected the video to be. I've got a few other videos I need to make quickly just about my experience with the authorized dealer that I bought it from. But that's my first impressions. I need to look at the accuracy, wear it for a while, play around with a few bits and bobs and see how I get on, and then I'll do an update video. But in the meantime, if anyone's got any questions, please just let me know.